Ladies and gentlemen, dudes and dudettes, welcome back to the DudeCast, the podcast that literally nobody asked for, brought to you by the Patch Dudes, dedicated to helping you improve your trade business and get a little bit better day by day. Hopefully what we do here will help you guys improve your business, your operation, and improve yourself just a tiny bit. My name is Or, if you don't know me already, and to my right is my dedicated co-host, Philip the Office Plant, and we are super excited to have our first ever guest on the show, our good friend, our business coach, Ryan Gable of Single Bridge Advising. Ryan, welcome to the show, my friend.
Thanks, buddy.
And we'll give you, for those of you that don't know Ryan, of course, why would you know Ryan? I'll give you a quick background. I met Ryan in Breakthrough Academy. He was actually my coach. I was lucky enough to have him assigned to our company. Exactly what we needed him when we needed him, and I will get into more details on that a bit later. But before becoming a business coach, Ryan spent years building and running his own business. He had a pretty cool juice company called the Good Life Juice, or Good Life Juice without the D, and also held leadership positions in businesses that you guys all know, such as FedEx and Enterprise Rent-A-Car. Over the years, Coach Ryan helped hundreds of business owners being a part of Breakthrough Academy. You help them double, triple, and even 10x their business, building high-performance teams and navigating massive milestones such as acquisitions and exits. Coach Ryan, always a pleasure to have you, my friend.
Or man, it's great to reconnect, dude. Proud of you.
Now that I got the awkward part out of the way and the noted and written down part, now we can have a very open conversation. Since Coach Ryan expertise is in helping people build businesses and procedures, especially in the trade industry, what better thing to talk about than really the most common and biggest mistakes that he sees, whether it's young and older entrepreneurs in the industry make on a regular basis. So this will be a pretty free-flowing conversation. That's the goal, just as two business friends are talking about their businesses and their experiences. And hopefully you guys can learn something.
Awesome, dude. I got to name my plants so that, I can introduce them when I'm online.
Well, this is Philip. I see someone in the backyard, in the back screen of yours there. So,
Yeah, they don't have names, but they're a big part of my life.
so Coach, I know you recently started a new business as well. You want to tell us a little bit how that experience has gone so far?
Yeah, it's been exciting, and like any entrepreneur knows, right? Like I was a business owner, loved it. I'm like, oh, a little stressful, like, having that exposure and the liability that comes with having a business. And it's like, oh, maybe I'll go work for somebody for a while. So did that, absolutely loved it. That's where we connected. But that entrepreneur, like, that thing that's in
That
you.
bug.
Yeah. So I was like, I kind of want to get back out on my own and, eat what I kill and all that. So yeah, I've been doing my own thing now for a little while, and it's been great. Like helping business owners be successful is incredibly rewarding, right? When you can
Yeah.
like get someone make a little more money or have more free time or be less stressed, it's pretty badass. So I've
So
been
I
loving it.
know that in the introduction that I had unashamedly stole from your website. I've
Yeah.
spoken a lot about your background. Why don't you give our single listeners the 2 minute version of who Ryan is, why they should listen to you, to me, and this
Yeah.
conversation
So
as a whole.
like I've had the opportunity over the past 8 years to coach like literally hundreds of businesses. So having like as many as like 30 or 40 businesses that I was coaching on a regular basis for like 7 or 8 years. So I've seen a lot of guys come like through the journey of business ownership. Um, and mostly in the trade space. So your roofer, your painter, your builder, landscaping, kind of anything to do with home services and building, as well as commercial stuff too. But since I've had that exposure, I've seen what works with guys and what doesn't work. And it's incredible how many of the same things. It's not like there's some crazy secret or like everybody's so different. There's some fundamental things that people do wrong and things that they do right. And a lot of people get lucky when the market's great and they're like, I'm running a successful business because it's easy. But then when things get a little tough, and if you don't have certain things in place, you get screwed.
Which is a great point, and I just had this conversation yesterday with somebody in the painting industry out of everything, and I think we have quite a bit of painters that might be listening to this. And he was talking about how, during COVID, everybody, he thought he was the greatest business person in the world because there's so much demand, and I don't have to market. Marketing is for people that don't do a good job.
Right.
And all of a sudden, he's telling me how he's having a hard time finding business now that the demand has kind of died down. The economy is starting to take a downturn. So definitely, 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 it's so important to have those systems to understand where your business is at. And I think that's the first thing that I'd like to kind of talk about is, in your experience, how do people can even understand where their business, have a good analysis of where they're at in business to even know if they need help, what system, how do they know what they don't know, you know?
Yeah, that's a really good question. That's a really good question, actually, because I had some stuff in mind that I'm like, oh, I can make a little list of things that entrepreneurs, screw up on or whatever.
Of course.
Um, and but you're right, because like first off, if you don't know what you don't even know, then you're not gonna fix that thing. Um, I think it'll be different for every business owner. Honestly, the depends on your background. Most guys I see, they come up through their trade, right? So you got your
Mhm.
classic plumber, and he's a badass plumber. And so he gets more clients, he starts to grow, and he's like, okay, I'm successful. I'm at that like $1 million revenue mark. I need to start getting additional crews, maybe subs. Maybe I need an office space or sales or admin person. And they move into that like 1.5 zone. And then it hits the wall. And they're like, I don't know what went wrong. When I was like 800 grand, I made a ton of money and it was easy. And now I doubled and somehow I have no money and I'm super
Yep.
stressed out and I'm freaking out. Like, I don't understand what went wrong. And it's because they didn't put the systems in place. They don't have some of the skills that are required to run a larger business. And guys stay in that zone and it's like the hell zone. You're there and you're not making the money and you're stressed out and your family's suffering and your mental health is suffering when then they're like, okay, I got to scale back to that 800K to like get along, or I need to figure out what it takes to push into that 2.5 zone that where now you're making money again. But if you're came up through the trade, you're a really good plumber. You didn't go to school to learn how to do budgeting or finance or
Yep.
job costing or leadership or recruiting or all the things that are needed to run a good business. And so what do you know that you don't know? Or it kind of depends on who the owner is because everybody comes with a background, right? Some people have finance background, they're going to kill it, but maybe they're not great with people.
That's a
Um,
good point. And on my previous episode, I was talking about a pretty controversial point that I actually think that people that start a business and trades that they don't know how to do the trade themselves, I think that's an advantage point. And I think that in hindsight, if I could go back, I would definitely pick a trade that I know nothing about
yeah,
because my tendency of jumping back into the field when shit hits the fan, excuse my French, would not be possible.
totally.
So, what do you think about that? Do you think that's a pretty good idea for people?
1,000%. I got a roofer that I coach and he bought that business. And so when it hits the fan on site, the weather's coming in, the roof's exposed, he can't go out because he doesn't know what he's doing. So he needs to have the people. So that means he's not drawn away from the marketing and the leadership and the oversight to his company, the things he should be doing as a CEO, because he doesn't know how. So he has to have good people. It makes for some uncomfortable moments when
Yep.
he can't find the guy to do the thing, but then he learns and he's better for it.
Absolutely. And I know you mentioned when we started talking that you had kind of prepared a list of most common mistakes or things that you think new business owners should know about or mistakes that they make. And we're going to get into that right after this. But going back into when we started working together, when we joined Breakthrough Academy, we were right around the $1 million in revenue mark. I think we're even a bit less. It was our first year in business. And I remember that one of the first exercises you had us do was finding our why, or kind of reverse engineering what our big picture, beautiful life, BHAG, you guys called it, what it looks like, and reverse engineering from that. So let's assume our listener is around that mark of 500,000 or less. How do they take the first step to really reverse engineer their life, their big why moment, and understand why they're even doing what their goal and how to reverse engineer that thing? I know it's a loaded question. It's a process that takes a long time to do, but if you were in that position, what would be the first step that you would take to figure out your big why and reverse work from there?
Dude, this is a really good question. And it's the right question. And it warms my heart that that's what you think is the right question because it means that some stuff I said sunk into your brain. So,
Into this little space in here.
yeah, it's good. It's good because a lot of guys are like, oh, like there's some stuff on this list that guys are doing wrong, like their pricing, their cash
Yep.
flow, people related things, tracking. Like these are things that are problematic. But if you don't know where you're going, then all those things hardly matter. Like, so you mentioned BHAG, which stands for Big, Hairy, Audacious Goal. So it's like every business owner should have a goal or a plan or what they want to do long term, right?
Yeah.
And that sounds obvious, but like there are so many business owners that are just like doing their thing and what happens, happens. And if I give you an analogy, say you get into, you're going on vacation with a lady, you get in the car, you're heading west, you're making great time, right? You look over and you're like, so where are we going on vacation? And she's like, well, we're going to Europe. You're like, we should be in a plane headed east, not a car headed west. Doesn't matter how good a time we're making,
Yeah.
right? And so making sure that before you sort of go down this huge endeavor of business, or even if you're already there, reevaluate what you're doing. What are your goals? What do you truly want? And you mentioned your why. I think it's two important questions. One is your values, like who are you and what do you stand for, right? Like a classic one would be like honesty, right? Or community, right? Okay, so if community is one of your core values, it's probably going to be one of your business's core values if you're at that 500 mil mark or 500 grand mark, right? So you as the owner are going to be directly connected to your company's values, right?
Yeah.
So values, and then which we can talk about, but then also that big, hairy, audacious goal. So that long term, where do you see yourself in 5 years, right?
Yeah.
And like it's called big, hairy, audacious goal. It should be called, with an F in there, big, hairy, audacious F and goals, because it shouldn't be like, I want to see some growth and a little bit of money, and I want to hire another crew. No, we're talking like Corvettes, your name on the side of a building that on the stadium, right?
Yep.
Or we're talking like big profits, big vacations, big influence in your community, big donations to your charity, right? Like big stuff, like audacious stuff, because your business is a vehicle that can give you whatever you want, like whatever you want. And so when I say whatever you want, it needs to be like the quirky, weird thing that you want, right? So, or your BHAGs are going to be wildly different than mine, right? I got a
Absolutely.
guy, he's like, I want an airplane hangar with two planes and my office above it, just like James Bond. And I'm like, okay, that's a badass, that's a really badass goal. Another guy's like, I want a sailboat and I want to sail around the world with my daughter. Like those are wildly different goals, but like that's what that person wants. And once you write it down, have it on a board, look at it every week, you'll start to make micro decisions every day that will get you there. Right.
Yeah.
And the same is true if you don't do that. So if you don't have a goal and you don't have a plan, you'll end up there too. Right.
Yeah. That's a great point. And it came to my mind pretty recently. I was in Chicago in a wedding of actually somebody that we both know, from back in the BTA days. And we kind of did a day when we dove into his business and shared some experiences. And I remember I was giving him advices throughout the whole day, and I thought I was giving him fantastic advices. And then at the end of the day, I asked him, "Hey, what is your goal with the business? Are you trying to make an empire?" Kind of, which is what I'm trying to do. So that's advices I'm basing. The base for all my advice is to build a huge brand and recognizable in an empire. But he actually just wanted something that's a nice lifestyle business that can afford a nice house for him and his wife and some vacations and whatnot. So then I realized, wait, everything I just told you is completely irrelevant. Forget everything I just told you because it didn't work with the right goal. So correct me if I'm wrong, but especially in your world, in the coaching and advising industry, without knowing what somebody's goals are or really BHAG, it's almost impossible for you to even do your job to help them.
Yeah, 100%, or you make it worse for them, right? If
Yep.
you gotta like, I agree, I love that concept of get to, like, a $5 million revenue business, you're making, like, 10 or 15% net. That's a happy little company that's gonna make you a ton of money for a life, right? Or guys are like, "No, I wanna be the biggest on the West Coast." So
Yep.
you're gonna need to grow and expand, you're gonna need all kinds of different things, right? And so you need to know that as a coach, of course, to help someone, but also as the business owner, you need to know what that is. Your employees need to know. Your family needs to know. Everybody needs to know because everyone that's helping you achieve that. And connected it to it that I hadn't mentioned is your why. And sometimes that gets kind of mixed in. But it's important to separate it. Like to give you an idea, my personal why or my why for my company is I want to get to a number of clients that's stable so that I can then offer pro bono coaching to some charities and some startups that can't afford it because that fills my cup personally.
Yep.
I want to help people. Like I see these charities and they run and they're just like, "Oh my god," because they have a bunch of great volunteers, but no one knows how to actually do marketing or do financial analysis, and so their cause doesn't get the help it needs. So it's like
For
my
sure.
why, right? And so when I
Yeah.
tell my clients that, they can identify. They're like, "Cool, Ryan's doing something. I wanna be part of that kinda," right? And so that can help people understand what motivates you. Also, your employees get it. So then you're giving back to in the way that you want to.
Yeah, those
Yeah.
are really, really valid points. Like I mentioned at the top of this conversation, you've spent at least the last 7 years that I know of working with probably hundreds of trades businesses all across different industries. Let's talk about some of your experiences and kind of common, whether it's mistakes or lessons that you were teaching or you saw happening. What's
Yeah.
the kind of the first thing that pops into your head when you want to give advice to a new budding entrepreneur or somebody that's been in the industry for a while and kind of stuck?
Yeah.
What's the kind of first thing that pops into your head?
So that's a big question. And it depend like we just talked about, depends, right? Like you meet someone, you talk to them, you understand who they are, what they're about, even what some of their basic fundamental goals are and their values that can help give some angles on what they could use help with. But if we're speaking just generally, the
Yep.
one of the most common right away is time and priority management. That sounds boring, but the reality is that I have objectives with my clients. I'm like, okay, so we want to make you more money or get you more time or be less stressed. So to get to that, we're going to need to put some systems in place and start doing some financial tracking. But the business owner, when I first meet them, they're like balls to the wall. They don't
Yeah.
they don't have time to like build a system and implement it and train their people and hold them accountable. They're barely surviving currently, right? Like they're doing estimates on the weekend and they're doing um, you know, invoicing it in the evenings, they're missing out time with their kids. Like they don't have time to for Ryan's idea on a system for end of day cleanup that will save him half an hour a week. No, we don't have time for that.
Yep.
So, personal time and prior management of the owner is a pretty early conversation and connected to that, of course, is you got to know your values and your goals. And I know you're gonna keep hearing that, but that should be the core of everything you do, right? Um, so if you were like, if I met you for the first time and I'd be like, talk to me about how you spend your day and what do you spend your time on, right? And some like real easy, low hanging fruit is a digital time tracking. So like
Yep.
Google Calendar or iCal, even if it's a paper book that you keep track of your day and your schedule, whatever it is, but doing that on a regular basis is like fundamental in business
Absolutely.
because your time, think of you're the owner, right? You are the most valuable piece on the chessboard. You're the queen. You can do everything, right? And so is it a good use of your time to be like driving to get materials or like
Yep.
moving a truck or like the dump trailer? Like that is a gross waste of company resources. You're like a $300 an hour employee doing a minimum wage task,
Yep.
right?
Just
Elon
because you can't do it doesn't mean you should do it.
Exactly. And a lot of owners are like, oh, but I'm free. I
Yep.
don't cost the company anything. No, the opportunity cost of you is wild, right? So if you're taking that dump trailer, right? And spending an hour on the road or 2. Some guys spend 4 hours on the road a day. Like, that's insane. What you could be doing that 4 hours is recruiting a guy to drive, right?
Yeah.
Interviewing. You could be doing sales, which is fundamental to your business. You could be building those systems that'll give you that time, or financial analysis or whatever. There's a million things that are higher on the priority list than going to get a piece of lumber for the job that somebody forgot to pick up, right?
Absolutely. I think one of the things that we even use still, and I have all of my employees do this as well. We've utilized Google Calendar
Yeah.
to use as our block scheduling, where we sit down at the end of every week and we start blocking times on our calendars, and it's all color coded. So every color we can see exactly what type of activity we're doing, and we're able to really quickly at a glance see where we're spending most of our time. So essentially, we're doing a time audit of what we're doing with our time and where the highest return on investment on each activity is at any given time. I do this myself at least twice a year as I'm starting to plan my next activities for the year, and it never ceases to amaze me how I fall back into old ways and start wasting time running materials, or
Yeah.
going for answering a million emails that an EI could maybe do, EA can maybe do in the future. So yeah, definitely delegation and prioritization, huge thing.
Yeah, man. Just to piggyback on that, I'd say like fundamentals, have a block calendar, look at it. Also own that it's not going to be perfect. It's a practice. Like,
Yeah,
I still improve how I do my time tracking today, and I've been doing it diligently for many years, right? But if you went back and looked at my first ever week of using a digital calendar, it was awful. It was all the same color. It was like wildly empty in some days and overbooked on others, right? And so it took a long time to figure it out. So just own that it's like you're not going to get good at right away, right? Like, any tradesperson listening to this, whether you're a painter or a roofer, you weren't good at that thing when you started. The first wall you painted dripped. The first
yeah,
wall you framed was crooked. So the first block calendar you use is going to drip and be crooked. But that's the only way you'll get better, is by doing it on a regular basis. And your point is like, start using it, look at the morning and say, hey, what do I got planned for today? Try to stick to it, right? And at the end of the day, reflect, look back. This is like a two
yeah,
minute task. Did I do my tasks on my calendar or not? Personally, I change anything that didn't work on my calendar to red. So I have a option. And so I just turn it to red. And I'm like, oh, okay. So then I can reflect at the end of the week or even the month, be like, why didn't these meetings work? Or why didn't this schedule work? And then you can learn from that, right? And so, like, lessons I've learned is, don't book one-on-ones on a Monday morning. Seems obvious,
yeah.
right? But you still do it because, like, oh, I'll just book that in there. I got a block, and then everyone's busy. Monday mornings are a gong show.
For the
Same,
record, this is why we're doing this on a Tuesday.
yeah, perfect, right? Same with Friday afternoons in the summer. Don't book a one-on-one on a Friday at 3 or 4. Like, people are checked out. They don't want to be talking to their coach about the goals they hit or didn't, and so, so anyway, so use the red to give yourself an audit. Some just lessons I've learned of human behavior is book things in the morning that take more brain power. So math, financial stuff, creative things, things that are like going to be more challenging. You're way more effective between like 6 and 11 a.m. So do that creative hard stuff in the morning. Don't do it on a Monday morning. So think Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, ideally, for that like really core important stuff. And then leave the afternoons for people stuff, like, doing a GSR or sales calls or meeting your crews on site or whatever. Try to do those things in the afternoon. Cause like, if you're like me, if I open my laptop after 6, it's like 2 hours to do a 10-minute task in the morning, right? Some
Yeah,
guys can crush work after midnight, and power to you, but most humans can't.
yeah. For me, at 5 p.m., my brain shuts off, and
Yeah.
7 p.m., I don't even know how to speak English anymore. It's a mess.
Another hack I do at the end of my day is I do a brain dump of everything that's like on my to-do list, and I just write it on a blank email, but it could be on a notepad or whatever you want to do. But like this, to get everything off my brain that I'm like, these are the things that I really wanted to get done but didn't. It does 2 things for you. Okay. One, it like lets you relax in the evening because now you can like, you're not constantly running. Oh, don't forget, right? I can like chill and be present with my family and my my personal time. But then also in the morning, you have a to-do list, right? So it's a nice little place to start. And then you could take that to-do list and go through it and circle everything on there that's like connected to your values, underline anything that's connected to your long-term goals. And then anything on that list that's circled and underlined, well, that's important. So that goes to the top of the list, or I'd even put it right in my block calendar for the next day or later that week. Like give it
I
some
love it.
time to focus on it.
You guys are getting gold here. This is stuff that people pay a lot of money to get these gold nuggets here. So rewind that 15 seconds. Start doing what what coach is saying. I
Right?
love that. What do you think about delegations? You know, I'm thinking about the business owner that's around the 500,000 in revenue. That could be the really great craftsman, the painter that
Yeah.
nobody can paint as good as me. The guy you mentioned, the guy that's doing estimates on the evenings and weekends and he's never home and he's always busy and takes forever to answer his phone because he's such a great painter. Everybody wants him on site. What would you say to that guy? What do you know? Dan Martell coined the phrase. Wow, English or the phrase, 80% done by someone else is 100% awesome. I
Yeah.
love that. What do you think about these guys are still on the field? Is it time to get out? Delegation is their friend, enemy?
Yeah. 100%. You know, and that Dan Martell's quote is great. Another one that's connected is a lot of successful entrepreneurs are successful because they're a bit of a perfectionist. They
Mhm.
do really high quality work. And so they build a reputation and stuff like that. So then they're like, oh, well, if I'm not doing it, the guy hired is going to do a crappier version. Right.
Yeah.
Like, okay. And I'm not saying you have to accept that, but if you want to not do it yourself forever, the person you get to do it is probably going to have to do it about 80%. Say, we're just making up numbers, but they're not going to do it as good as you. And that's the reality, right? You can build systems and you can have oversight. You can get that caliber quite high. Um, but at first, it's probably going to be a little bit like that. And,
You
that's
you
okay.
have to get comfortable with being uncomfortable in the beginning, for
Yeah.
sure.
But you can get over that eventually, where now you're hiring people who are actually better than you were and like specialists. So think about this, right? You as a successful business owner are good enough at everything. You're good enough at sales. You're good enough at production. You're good enough, right? But if you can get to that stage where now you're hiring someone who's not a generalist, they're a specialist, they'll actually be better than you at those things, right? Because they can
Yeah.
focus 100% on it, right? And that was an eye opener for me in my business when I had my employee using a piece of machinery that only I ever used, right? It's really expensive. No one uses it but me. But then he was the guy who was just always on it every day. And eventually he got better at it than me.
Yep.
And then I'm like, I had to kind of own it. I'm like, oh, so Eric, you're going to train all the new hires from now on.
Yep.
And it was so liberating. It was so liberating that I didn't have to do that anymore. And so the point is, yes, you're probably going to need to hire sooner rather than later. A lot of guys wait too long because they're like, I can't afford it, right? That's the biggest hang up is, oh, this person's going to cost me more money than my profits or whatever. And so they don't. But a couple things to think about. Say, for instance, you're going to hire a salesperson. A salesperson and an admin are usually the two early first hires for like a $500,000 company, right?
Mhm.
Because usually most business owners want to hold on to production, right? Custom home builders, they tend to do the other way around where they hold on to sales. But most of the guys give up sales early or admin, some kind of like support internal person.
Yep.
Okay. So if you're going to do that and you're like, I can't afford it, one, you don't have to pay their 40 or 50 grand up front, right? It's in installments. You're paying every 2 weeks. So it's spread out. And also, if you give them, say, some tasks off your plate, right? You give them like some tasks, some menial tasks, right? That now free up 10 hours of your day, of your week. Okay. 10 hours of your week is insane. Think about what you could do
Another
or
work day.
10 hours, right?
Yeah.
So you skip like 10 hours of like running around, picking up stuff and driving, even just having a person drive you around, like honestly. So you could be on your laptop and on your phone instead of on the windshield. Like you pay someone minimum wage for that. Pay your like
Yep.
niece or nephew or whatever. And like I know guys who do that exact thing. And it's like, that's a really good use because now you're exchanging the minimum wage person's time for your $300 an hour effort.
Yeah.
Right? So those first few hires are actually way more valuable than later hires because you're getting a really good return. So anyway, just first people
Yeah.
need to think about that so that they can get over this. Like, I can't afford it. I'm like, dude, you can't afford not to do this because you're
Yeah.
throwing away money. Right. And then, like I said, probably think about what you suck at in your company or what you hate doing. They're probably the same thing. Right. You
Mhm.
hate doing it because you suck at it. You suck at it because you hate doing it. Right. So that's like for some guys could be sales, other guys could be like tracking, financials, data entry, whatever, and then hire for that. You know, don't hire someone just like you, which happens all
Yeah.
the time, right? Guys are like, oh, I really like this guy. He's just like me. No,
Yeah.
hire the person who's like your yin to your yang. You know, they're the opposite kind of energy, different skill set. I'd also say don't go cheap in hiring. So many entrepreneurs, they're like, I can't afford it. So I'm just going to, I'm going to hire this like new grad. I'm going to get lucky and they're going to be a unicorn. Like, dude, it never works out. I can tell you from experience, especially bookkeepers, don't ever hire a cheap bookkeeper. It's the worst thing you'll ever do, right?
Yeah.
Hire someone who is maybe too expensive or maybe a little more, but it's better to overpay for a high quality person than to get a deal on a crappy person.
It makes all the difference in the world. It makes
Dude.
all the difference. And when you do find that right person that is worth the money and you realize how your time starts, you earn your money, your time back, which you can then take and invest in other areas that maybe you're better at the time being for the business. And you kind of you learn to fall in love with delegation. At least that's what I found.
Yeah,
It's once you start, you don't want to stop.
totally. And some hacks on this is, yeah, you mentioned a VA. So it's really straightforward now to get a virtual assistant out of the Philippines, for example, for like $8 or $9 an hour. And they can do a lot of online, I would say menial tasks, but they can actually, you can hire high caliber individuals. You can hire like for a couple more
Yeah.
bucks, you can get engineer level virtual assistants, who have a degree in engineering and they could do takeoffs and they can do estimating. Like there's a lot of virtual options out there. Um, and there's outfits that can like find the people for you. It's pretty straightforward. Um,
Yeah, no,
the other
that's
thing
awesome. That's awesome.
is always be recruiting. So most companies, their recruiting happens when they lose a guy, right? And so this could
Yes.
be when we're talking about delegation of like higher tasks like sales or admin, but it also could
Yeah.
be just your technicians, right? So you're
I
like,
was
oh, this
hoping
guy
you're gonna
quit.
start. You're gonna talk about this. I was hoping you're going to mention this because anybody listening to this, pay close attention. This one little thing that Ryan taught me probably changed my business more than anything.
Yeah.
Keeping your roster full. I don't. I'll shut up now and let you talk about that.
Dude, I'm so excited about this stuff. Absolutely love it. So, um, yeah, everybody I've ever coached, they always say like when a guy quits, it's always they never give notice. They're like, oh, the union's hiring at triple the pay, so I'm leaving tomorrow. And you're like, right. And so you lose a guy. And of course, it's when you're right about to start your biggest project of the year. It's never convenient, right? It's
It's
always the
never in the time when you have no work.
no, because your competition is busy, so they're going to all like, hey, here's a reality check. Everybody's employees right now have pressure from somebody else to leave you. Whether it's a competitor is offering them more money, they're thinking about going back to school or travel or moving with their spouse. Like everybody has some reason to leave you. So we need to talk about retention in a minute, but replacement. So if you wait till you lose a guy to start recruiting, it's going to be a nightmare, right? Because now
Yeah.
you're all probably getting pulled back on the tools to do his job while also trying to recruit to replace it. So instead of that nightmare scenario, which everyone lives, if you do your recruiting ahead of time, right? So I always advocate like a half an hour or an hour a week of recruiting activity so that when someone quits, you're like, no problem. You just make a phone call and there's a new guy who starts on Monday, right? You're like, well, how does that happen? So you need to do all the steps ahead of time, right? And
Yeah.
so everybody should be recruiting for any position you may need to fill over the next 18 months. So that means anybody who currently could leave your company, so that's all employees from sales to admin to technicians, they could quit any day now. So you need to be recruiting or looking for a person or any position you might need to expand into. So if you plan on growing over the next year and a half, you'll
Yeah,
also
but
be
Coach Ryan, I'm not ready yet. I'm not ready for another guy. I don't have enough work for him, but he's a great guy.
I love it. Great question. So, of course, but recruiting and hiring are different things, right? I guess say that again. Recruiting and hiring are different things. Like you just asked about hiring. Hiring is when he goes on the payroll and he starts work.
Yep.
Recruiting is networking to find a guy, posting job ads, doing interviews, meeting people, doing background checks, all
Yep.
those things you need to do to get a high quality person. It could take like weeks to months, even years for like if you want that production manager, if you need a production manager to run your whole production side of things, you should, and you don't need him for a couple of years, you should be looking now, right?
Yep.
Because the person who aligns with your values, who has the skill sets you need and the technological background, you may stumble across that person tomorrow and not need him for 2 years, but you need to recognize, crap, I remember that Ryan guy said, I need to be thinking about future employees. And I met this guy at an event or at a barbecue and he's solid. So get his phone number. You don't have to pay him tomorrow. You just get his details and start building a relationship with him that then later you can tap into. One of my best hires that I ever made was my production manager. And it was 6 months later. I met him. I'm like, dude, you're great. And he was like, yeah, I'm not looking right now. And I was like, I want you one day. And he's like, yeah, but I'm in school. I'm in university. I was like, okay, when do you graduate? He's like, oh, June next year. So I put it in my calendar and I called him on graduation day of the next year in June. And I'm like, hey, Nick, what are you thinking about? And he's like, wow, I can't believe you called. I haven't even been looking for a job yet. I didn't have time. I'm so busy with exams. I'm like, great. Interviewed him and hired him. He was best employee ever, right?
That's
So
awesome.
if you put 30 minutes Friday mornings to post a job ad, to look at resumes, to like make some calls, process guys. And then I know your next argument, right? Well, what if I get a guy and I line them all up and I still don't have a position, right? Classic,
Yeah.
no problem, right? So if you do all these steps and
Sorry,
you,
one clarification for anyone listening. We're talking about when you're finding that like AAA superstar in potential. That's the guy that we're talking about. Don't
yeah,
don't go out of your way for a guy that you might not be sure about, or it could be like a B player. We're talking about you find a AAA player, but you're not ready. Take it away.
that's a great point because, of course, all this conversation is around AAA because why would you hire anyone else,
Yeah.
right? But of course, that's what everybody's doing.
Yeah.
They're hiring heartbeat guys because they need a guy right now, and the only guy available is the guy who's unemployed. And it's like,
Yeah.
don't hire unemployed people. Like, they're probably hire someone who's got a great job and loves it and is in high demand. You want those guys, right? So, yeah, if you're putting a little bit of time Friday mornings to do these things, you meet the guy, great. Or maybe you met him at a barbecue and you got his number, and now you're like putting him through your recruiting process. Um, okay, now you're like, I like him. I've decided I want him, but I don't have a position for him in the company right now, and I might not for months. But he's so good, right? Then you just tell him this. There's no
Yep.
secret here. You're like, or dude, it's a pleasure meeting you. Your background and values line up perfectly with my company. I want you to work here, but I just don't have a role right now. But I think I'm going to have an expansion, a project coming in probably in about 4 months. And I'd love to get you in then. And for you as a candidate, this is a great scenario because now you have like a guaranteed job available sometime in the future, right?
Yep.
So now I can like take the time off, I can use up my benefits, I can
Mhm.
wrap up projects, or more importantly, I'll stop looking for another job because now I have one when I want to, when Ryan's company is ready to hire me, right? And the
Yep.
power of this is once you have this guy on the bench, this is what we call this. You have a guy on your
Yep.
bench, right? And ideally you'll have a bench for every position in your company, right?
Yep.
Then you're going to maintain it. You're going to call or text every week and you're going to be like, still thinking 4 months out. I just want to check in. Hey, also, we're doing a training event. Why don't you come by? You can take part in the training. Or we're doing a barbecue. Why don't you come by? I know you're not on the payroll yet, but you will be. So you're maintaining that relationship with that guy, or maybe you just go for coffee or have whatever, or just a text message, but some kind of maintenance.
Yep.
So once you have these guys on your bench, okay, and then you have that guy who quit way back at the beginning of this conversation, it's
Game
so easy.
changer.
You're like, I know I said 4 months, but I had a guy quit today. Can you start
Yep.
next week? And he's like, yeah, I'll put my 2 weeks notice in today. I'll see you in 10 days. Right.
Yep.
Or you're like, you won a job that you didn't think you'd get, some big project, some dream project. And you're like, oh, I don't have the manpower, but I got guys on the bench. So now you tap the bench and you bring him in, and now you can say yes to
Yep.
that project that you couldn't have maybe said yes to, or you got a guy replaced. And so there was no hiccup in production. Or another scenario is you're not beholden to a bad employee, right? Like how many guys have had that? Yeah, he's so good at production, but he's toxic for my
Yep.
company. He doesn't listen to me. He talks back. He's rude. There's all these problems, but I can't fire him because he's the only guy who knows how to
Yep.
do this thing. Right. Well,
And when
now,
you do this, everybody becomes replaceable.
yeah. Right. And so that will level up everybody. Right. Because
Yep.
then you'll only have good quality people. And so your stress level is way lower. And then, of course, as soon as you move that guy in, you need to be recruiting again. Or really you
Yep.
need to be recruiting all the time. You can have a few people on the bench. That's fine. But like that'll come later. But yeah, always be recruiting. That's the only difference between you and a recruiting company, right? A recruiting company, they're just always interviewing and databasing, like stockpiling candidates for the jobs that come available, then they just insert them. So it's just
Yeah.
you doing kind of the same thing.
So become your own recruiting agency, guys. I'm not even kidding when I'm saying this. I know I sound like a broken record, but this has been probably the biggest change for us. And when you think about it in trades, and I'm referring mostly again to the smaller scale businesses, when do we need when do we start looking for people? When we have that big job that we just landed and it's starting on Monday and it's Friday afternoon, we're like, man, I need anybody with a pulse, anybody that can fog up a mirror, show up to site on Monday. And then you have guys that you never met before, you haven't vetted them, you don't know what they can do, you're hoping for the best, but it never works out. It's all, excuse my French again, but it's a shit show. And when you start, we start realizing that recruiting and hiring, again, not the same thing. You should always be recruiting so you're ready to hire on a limb whenever you need somebody. It makes life so much easier. And another thing that I learned, I always was scared to bring on more people. I always thought I don't want to bring on the new guy until I have enough work lined up. But all of a sudden, when we started having a bench, and I was like, wait, I'm going to bring this guy. This guy's a AAA player. I'm going to make a new position for him. The work magically showed up because the salespeople all of a sudden, wait, we have more people we need to employ. We're very confident in their abilities because they've been vetted, they've been tried, they went through a test trial. So let's keep them busy. And so the next client that calls, I need an urgent job. Yes, we can do it because we have a bench of people.
Yeah.
It's that alone has probably been the biggest thing that I've gotten
Dude,
from
I'm
my
glad you
work.
said that because there's some real psychology that messes with business owners there,
Yep.
right? Like you said, I don't want to hire a guy until I have the work. So what
Yep.
ends up happening, right, is now you don't have enough people to do the work. So then when you do land the work, you're short-staffed, right? And then it's a struggle to figure it out. So subconsciously, you don't hustle as hard to get the work because you don't have the people to do it, right? And so it becomes this like downward spiral where you don't get the people, you don't get the work, you don't get the work. And whereas if you flip it and you're like, no, I'm just going to hire a guy hoping and assuming that I'll get the work. Right. So then, and you don't even really hire him. You're just recruiting him again. There's pretty low risk here. Even if you put him on the payroll, even if you did that, but now that's going to drive you to get the sales needed to keep him
Yep.
busy. Right. And that's a better scenario to be in where you're hustling to get more work to keep your guys busy rather than the other scenario.
So for the listeners out there, I'm not sure if you guys are picking up on a theme here, but um, even when we're talking about recruiting and hiring, it's based on knowing what your goals are. It's based on I want to achieve X amount of dollars in revenue, X amount of percentage in profit this year. I got to reverse engineer it, which means I need to hire 10 people this year, which 5 of them will end up staying with me for the next 2 years. It's all working together in harmony with your big why, your goals, and then everything else is just a subsection of that. Um, Essentially, that is business planning and running a smart business. It's always going back to your goal, to my why, did that change? And going back in circles, and everything works with that, with your values together. But Coach, I know you're on a tight deadline here. You have a hard cutoff, but I did wanted to bring this up because I hear this all the time.
Yeah.
These are all great points, Coach Ryan, but in my industry, that's not going to work, or my market is different.
Yeah.
What I'm sure you heard that many, many, many times. That's probably your least favorite line. What do you think when
No,
people
dude, I
say,
love it. I love hearing that line because, I'm a bit sarcastic, and so guys I'll be like, "Oh yeah, I totally get it. You know what? Everybody else in business doesn't have family, doesn't have kids, doesn't have a weird, health situation that they're dealing with. They don't have competitors in their market. And yeah, the economy is great in everyone else's market. Yours is the only one that's bad." It's like, no, you're not alone. You're like, it's exactly the same across the board. Yeah, there's some fluctuations, but there's no big secrets here. Everyone's like, "Oh, I can't let them know what my pricing strategy is. What if my," but dude, everybody's got fundamentally the same kind of thing.
"Yep,
And um, yeah, it just makes me laugh because then when I say that, they're like, "Oh yeah, right. I guess so. Yeah, yeah." It's like, no.
yeah." It's crazy. I was talking to somebody that runs an appliance repair company, and we were talking about knowing your cost per lead, your NSLI, or what. I started, asking him many questions. How much it costs you per click? How much it costs you per lead issued? How much you're making on it? And it just astounded me that no CRM, doesn't know a single number, doesn't even know what I'm asking him. And then when I tried to kind of argue back that why you should know all those numbers, it's yeah, but my industry, I don't need to know that, it's so
Sure.
what I want kind of push to people is I challenge anyone listening to this. Try to start to educate yourself. There's so much free content out there. There's so many people like me, like you, willing to share our knowledge and help people to really achieve not our best, their best, and improve their business and run it the right way. Coach, if somebody wanted to reach out to you, work with you, perhaps, what's the best way to do so?
Yeah, my company's called Signal Ridge Advising. So you can reach out on LinkedIn, Ryan Gable. Set up a one-on-one chat. I can help them out. Yeah,
Stop it,
I'd love
Philip. I'll
to
ask him. I'll ask him. Enough. Philip wants to know when you're coming to Toronto.
Dude, I'll definitely be there in the fall, and maybe sometime before that. And then, but you could gotta come out here and visit me
I
too.
love it. We have to. It's definitely long overdue. Coach, I love it. I had a great time. We got to do this again. We can go for an hour just on any topic that we choose.
I know, right?
It was great. I will put all of your contact information in the description. We'll put it onto social. Love you, buddy. Talk to you soon.
Thanks, Or. All the
Thanks for
best.
sharing your knowledge.
Peace.
Ciao.